Welcome to this week's edition of Lunacy with Colleen Marie. I'm your host, and I'm excited to jump into this week because there's a lot of exciting things happening astrologically for all of us. So, just as a reminder, Lunacy is weekly video podcast type thing where we dive into, the movements of La Luna, the moon, throughout the process or throughout the duration of the week. Let me make sure I have my notifications turned off on my computer here. Sorry about that. Okay, so as we get started here, I just want to remind you guys that if you ever want to work with me directly and get a little bit more personalized insight into your natal chart, your personal astrology, what makes you tick, what makes you special and unique, you can always head over to my website, which I just updated, and that is colleenmariehealing.com. And there you'll learn about some of my different offerings and how you can work with me directly and get a little bit more personalized insight. But what we're talking about this week is more general. So, anytime that I do one of these kind of horoscopes for the week ahead, it's not necessarily going to relate to you super personally, but sometimes it does, depending on how your personal chart interacts with these relationships that we're going to talk about between planetary bodies. One thing, though, that we all really feel is the moon. And the moon changes signs every 2.5 days. So we're constantly shifting. And that's why, and the moon, of course, relates to our deepest emotions, our connections to our family, what makes us feel nurtured, what makes us feel, emotionally connected to other people. So that can shift and that can change. And it does so every 2.5 days. And it's going to be extra heightened during a full moon, which we just left. Yesterday, we had a full moon in the sign of Capricorn. And then it's going to feel a little bit less easy to access at a new moon when the moon is not visible in the sky. And we have one coming up later in July. So, just to jump in, as I mentioned, yesterday was a full moon in Capricorn. And that really was the focus whenever the moon is in the sign of Capricorn is on long term goals, things that require a lot of hard work and perseverance and often come with certain setbacks. So, emotionally, we might have been going through some shifts in our relationships that helped bring in some more mature ways of relating to other people. So that's what we were experiencing yesterday. It was also a really lucky full moon because we had the moon and the sun in positive aspect and positive relationship to Jupiter, the giver of signs and luck. So we might have been feeling a little bit more, spiritual yesterday, a little bit more connected to people in our lives who make us feel expanded and make us feel, connected. So that was a really lucky day. And today we're still feeling that. And we're also noticing that today, on June 25th, the planet Neptune goes retrograde. And Neptune, of course, is a very psychic and spiritual planet. It wants to merge with divine consciousness, it wants to relate with others. I love to think of Neptune as the ocean and that flowing energy of being a drop in a vast, spiritual pool, if you will. And so, a lot of times when we see any planet go retrograde, it becomes more internalized. So, this is a really good time. Neptune, because it moves so slowly, will actually appear to be retrograde, which means it looks like it's moving backwards in the sky, even though that just has to do with where we are on the planet Earth. But what's going to happen over the next 5 months is Neptune will be in this retrograde state. So it doesn't mean that we have to make huge shifts in our lives. It's not a sudden change that we're going to be experiencing. If anything, this is just a really good time to start to focus on where your spirituality is headed. Do you feel like you are fully embodying your spirituality, your connection to the divine, your deeper self? All of these things are what we're going to be reflecting on, personally and collectively over the next 5 months. The downside, of course, to the planet of Neptune is that it tends to want to escape. It tends to want to pull away from reality sometimes. Sometimes it just feels like it's all, too vast. And in order to deal with that, it chooses, whenever Neptune is highly aspected in our chart or in the general, in general, we feel like we want to escape. So Neptune does rule things like addictions, and it does create other concerns when it comes to just wanting to distract ourselves from the day-to-day reality. So just be conscious of that. This is a long-term spiritual transition that we're going to be going through. So just be conscious of how you react to that. Are you meeting it halfway, or are you choosing things to distract yourself and to substitute for that divine connection? So the other thing that we see today, and also it started yesterday, is Saturn is sextile Chiron. So what's Chiron? Chiron is an asteroid that orbits the sun in between the planets of Saturn and Uranus. And many of us are aware already of one of the most important astrological moments of all of 2021 is that Saturn and Uranus are in a square aspect most of this year. Saturn is the planet of convention. Uranus is the planet of rebellion. So these two things are in conflict throughout 2021. And we're seeing this in so many different ways as we see the mask mandates lifted and people wanting to just return to normal society, but then also having these restrictions around who's vaccinated, who isn't, what are we really allowed to do and not to do, and yet wanting to let ourselves be free again after everything we've been through over the past year. So, like, all of these themes we're seeing throughout 2021 of this Saturn Uranus square. But what we also have going on is Chiron is now plugging into this with a sextile to Saturn. Chiron is called the wounded healer. And this asteroid is very, very important in in the archetypes of, current society. It was discovered, I think, in the 80s. So it's kind of a new awareness of this wounded healer archetype. And the meaning that that brings into our collective is that of recognizing the power of our wounds. So, recognizing that all of the things we've been through in the past year, all of the restrictions, all of the difficult times, how did those things actually help us grow, help us become more, healed and more whole? And that's a huge, huge lesson through the next, several, I think it's 15 months that we're going to see this your Saturn and Chiron sextile happening. And a sextile is just a really positive connection between two planets. So this brings in this deeper meaning, this potential for healing, as well as productive developments in the realm of either taking the role of the healer or connecting with someone who gets to mentor you. So you can kind of step into either of those. But looking for someone, if you're somebody who has been on a spiritual journey and you're looking for some help, this is a great time to connect with somebody who can lead you further and deeper into yourself and help you access your spirituality. So that those are the two major things that we're seeing, and they both kind of are happening today. So this is really exciting. Then we're heading into tomorrow and the weekend. So the 26th of June brings the planet of Venus is moving into the sign of Leo. And this is a really like just happy-go-lucky sign. Venus and Leo, we want to express, we want to feel warmth, we want to be demonstrative in our relationships, we want to be, almost in a performance, in a dance with those that we care about. We're going to feel really close to the children in our lives during this time. This is a great time to connect with people that maybe, in a playful way, in a way that just is lighthearted and fun. And this is really great for just letting making sure that your relationships are places that you can shine in, and it will help to kind of bring them to that type of balance so that you feel more yourself and also more, able to have fun with others, and that's really exciting time as well. Also, tomorrow on Saturday, the 26th, we see the moon moving into the unexpected sign of Aquarius. And this is going to bring a desire to kind of break up the day to day routine, maybe some short travel. This is really where you're just going to want to do something unexpected, creative, connect with like minded people. And ultimately, you may experience some sudden emotional shifts, but ultimately they're going to help you align to your authenticity, to help you feel more at peace with your emotions and with the people in your lives. So then we have, on Sunday the 27th, the moon hits a trine aspect with Mercury. So this is where you're going to start to feel very emotionally observant. Maybe after some of the breakthroughs that come tomorrow, on Sunday you're like, well, let me integrate some of this. What does this really mean to me? How can I make sense of this emotional experience in a very kind of intellectual way? And this is where you're also going to find it's easier for you to communicate with those you love about your personal thoughts and feelings. And it's also a great time to listen with intention and to connect with those around you on that level. So, a great time to handle maybe some of the issues that you couldn't deal with during Mercury retrograde that we had last month. It just went direct a few days ago. If you haven't researched that, go and watch my last video about Mercury retrograde, because now that we're out of it, most likely you're feeling a little bit of a lightness. It's easier to communicate, easier to get things done, easier to move forward. So we do also have that on our sides right now. So, Monday, the 28th of June, the moon enters psychic, watery Pisces, and we're going to feel a little bit more connected to divine consciousness as well as others. This is a time, though, where we might not feel particularly focused. We might be more apt to be emotional than we are to act on something. So, if you're feeling kind of woo woo and out there on Monday, just know that's normal, and it's a great time to connect with things that are not in on the three-dimensional plane but maybe are beyond that. So connecting with spirituality, connecting with your emotions, and healing. The beautiful thing about Monday is that the moon is conjunct the giver of gifts and luck, Jupiter. So here we're seeing an emotional life that feels rich and abundant and content. We're going to feel particularly kind and generous. The downside, of course, to Jupiter is that we start to maybe overindulge. We have a potential for that. So watch out for that. You don't want to overindulge in anything on Monday. But, this is a time of joy, adventure, luck, optimism. It's a good time to take risks and try new things. And you're just going to experience maybe a spiritual high on Monday that maybe you haven't felt in a long time. So Let's bring it on. Tuesday, we see the moon sextile the planet Uranus. So this brings in, again, Uranus is the planet of rebellion and transformation and breaking free of boundaries and freedom in general. So with the moon sextile Uranus, we're experiencing on Tuesday, look for inspiration. Maybe feeling particularly, revitalized. Maybe a little electric energy. And this can also mean we feel a little, tense and anxious as well, because a lot of times anxious and excited are just on the same spectrum, and they're two words for essentially the same experience physiologically that we interpret as positive in this case of excited and negative in the case of anxious, right? So learning to see that that ultimately can be a force for good and a force of awakening, a force of coming to understand ourselves a little bit better, feeling more connected to family and relationships, bringing some fun into the home life. All of this is going to be highly, highly beneficial for us on Tuesday, the 29th. And then on Wednesday, the 30th, we see the moon move into independent and fiercely pioneering sign of Aries. So this is freedom continues to be a theme, but in this case, we might need some alone time. Aries wants to kind of assert itself. It is ruled by Mars, which wants to take action. So you might feel like you have a little bit more energy on Wednesday as well. But this could also bring in some potential for emotional volatility. So just be cautious of that. And also on Wednesday, we see the moon is conjunct Neptune and sextile Pluto. So this brings in a sense of mysticism and an empowered yet sensitive, deeply healing compassion. This is where we can maybe release some old emotional patterns. Watch for moodiness, during Wednesday, but ultimately if we connect with this Pluto, Neptune, Moon uh, connection, we're going to see catharsis and an ability to let go of some of the things that haven't been serving us emotionally and spiritually. So that's a really powerful day on the 30th of June. And then it brings us into July. And July 1st greets us with a third quarter moon in the sign of Aries. We are closing out the cycle, the lunar cycle that began with a new moon in Gemini, came to fruition with a full moon in Capricorn. That particular lunar cycle is really about learning what to laugh at and let go of versus what to take seriously and what to, what is the long term goal that we want to achieve, and what are some areas of our lives that we need to just have fun with and be frivolous with. So those two things are, part of this lunar cycle. And we're seeing that during the third quarter is what's called the dark moon days, where we tend to need to go a little bit more internalized and go within and think about bigger picture things and maybe spend some time alone and learning to kind of rebalance energy to prepare ourselves for the new moon that is coming next week. This particular third quarter moon also has the aspect of the planet Mars being opposite the planet Saturn. This is a very focused, disciplined, deliberate, energetic output time. We're going to be focused on hard work, persistence, and have this really strong ability to actually finish what we start. And this starts on July 1st and goes pretty much until the 5th of July. So this is going to be a very productive week for those of you who are looking to put some time into your long-term goals. That first week of July before the 4th is going to really allow us to have that strong focus and drive to get things done. So what practical skills can you focus on? What can you get accomplished between now and the 4th of July? And just reminding you, like, please don't let fear get in the way, because Saturn can tend to kind of connect us with scarcity and worrying about how we're ever get it all done. But Mars reminds us that if we just keep working at it, things will shift. And that's the beauty of this Mars opposite Saturn that we're going to see on July 1st. So I hope that you enjoyed this check in for the week ahead. If you have questions, as always, you can message me directly or head on over to my website, ColleenMarieHealing.com. I hope that this served you. I hope that this gives you a little bit of insight so that you feel that much more confident going into the week ahead. And again, I look forward to hearing from you. All right, have a good one. Bye.